We're going to be hopping in for some Mongols on H. What? No, Mongols on French. We lied. Lies. All right, so Blue and Blue, Mongols versus French on Lipany. This is an interesting pick by Numudan. I think it's kind of got some credit, some credence, shall we say, on this map, but we don't see it very often these days.
Exactly. I didn't actually remember what the maps selected were because we're just jumping into this set straight away. So it remains to be seen whether there could have been a slightly better use of Mongols elsewhere. But it's also the fact that there's a lot of mind games going into this one, right? Like, you would expect something like, let's say, the Abbasids from your opponent. And if you feel like the Mongols here in your hands would have a good matchup against the Abbasids, it could be also part of that. In the end, Wam just goes for the French. So we are going to see a very common matchup, French versus Mongols.
And I'd say, actually, like, this is a very dangerous pick Numudan's gone for. Like, I hope he has someone clear in mind, because to me, Wam is, I don't know about you, I'd say, like, top 5 Mongol player right now. I think he's got some very innovative builds, and he's found great success with the forestry-type builds and the double TC builds he's been innovating.
Indeed, it's gonna be interesting to see how Wam is gonna handle all this. Numudan, no sign of aggression just yet. As I'm saying that, there was the barracks, so good old-fashioned tower rush coming up. Wam is operating with 2 scouts, so he should have no trouble spotting this. Though, he is yet to set eyes on the barracks, so he might be late scouting this, actually.
So here's an interesting detail for you as well. Like, we hyped up the fact that Numudan was able to beat Donai. He didn't have an easy ride. Like, he beat Kyo before that as well. So he's actually eliminated 2 players that were in the monthlies. This guy he's someone to keep an eye out for. I mean, BC also hyping him up, is good at a lot of our RTSs. I'm excited to see what he can do against what I'd consider a top 8 player in Age of Empires 4 right now.
The more interesting thing is that Numudan, he has only used the Mongols once. That was in the best of 1 that he has played in the first round. Against Kaio and against Don Ori, the 2 players that really were the big fishes for him to knock out, he didn't use Mongols yet. So it's not like we all have a lot of tape on this guy when it comes to Mongols, and it's not like Wam has a lot of tape on this guy, because obviously Wam was probably looking at some wrecks from the previous round from his opponent, especially because, as we talked about this numerous times, this guy, we don't know much about him. So for someone like Wam, he needs to do proper scouting on the opponent before the game to see what the tendencies of his opponent are.
Well, he at least gets a different type of tape to try and muffle this idea coming out from Numudan early on. Wam, good scouting there, so he identified what he's up against. Let's see how he reacts to this. Typically, we've seen some French players, usually the classic build against this Mongol outpost rush is to go for a scout massing. Curious to see if he's going to choose that. That was cheeky. Ambitious, but cheeky.
At least he tried, right?
That's true, that's true. When I try, I usually lose the scout to the board, but we won't talk about that.
He's going to see the villager move forward, Spearman also coming in. And as you said, the French have a clear-cut response to this, but that response is very much dependent on where the first tower goes up. As you said, you want to go for the range, you want to go for scouts. Range so that you can pop out archers to deal with the spears, and then scouts to torch down the towers with. But if you tower rush the wood line, it's a different story, because Wam might struggle to afford that archer range.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why a lot of the French players go for the scouts, right? It only costs food, and you already have a stable in your tech up. So it just kind of became the shoe-in choice for dealing with these outpost rushes.
And look at that aggro follow-up here. Stable already being dropped. Looks like he just wants to go full Dark Age. He knows that the natural response is to make archers deal with the spears, and scouts to deal with the towers. But what if you go for your horsemen? Ooh, villagers being pulled.
Very early on. Movement speed arrow to push in and push the villagers back. Heavy damage onto this outpost, but if he keeps poking Prod, it should be able to go up. But the problem is the TC joining in, and the second wave of villagers, it's going to make this tight. I think it will complete, but likely to be on fire if it does. Instead, Numudan will return a little bit of wood and cancel it.
Ah, that's painful. He lost probably like 70% of that investment, and also a lot of precious time. That tower was near completion when it was taken down, so ultimately, he's yet to finish his first tower at the moment his opponent is reaching feudal.
And you see how much that extra 10 seconds into the build speed costs you, right? Or extra 15 seconds. It's so much. Like, that was the difference between it going up and not. If it went up, Spearman instantly garrison, maybe 2 villagers go down, Wam's at a disadvantage. But great reaction there. You know, a little bit of frustration from his eco line, slows him down somewhat, but as we already highlighted, you don't really need wood that much to counter out the outpost play. Worst case scenario, you just go for those scouts.
Exactly. It looks like the stable is up here for Numudan, but he decided not to add a single horseman. Just now queues up the first 2, as he's also on the way to feudal age. Has a clear eye set. on that archer range, so he knows what to expect, and he's going to respond in kind.
Outpost is almost up, but keep in mind that Numudan is going to get a second up from the completion of this. The tech up is underway. He's making his way up the deer stone. That means that on the front line, he is actually going to get the Yam as well as the outpost garrison point against this wood line.
Yeah, that's a nice little edge, right? It's going to help a little bit with the micro. Tower now garrisoned. Actually is able to harass the lumberjacks. That could be a little annoying for Wam.
Yeah.
Especially because Wam decided to go with the knights here. Didn't start adding scouts, so he doesn't really have a lot of torching potential.
What do you think about this archer range placement? Does it feel like needlessly aggressive, should we say? Like he isn't getting swittled when he comes out straight away, but there was a risk associated with this placement, right? With the
It's easily scoutable for sure. I think it's fine, but it's definitely something that just tells your opponent what exactly you're doing. It's not like you're hiding it. It's not like you're even trying to play it safe. You're just dropping it out there, telling your opponent, oh yeah, I'm doing this, and you can't really do anything against that right now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like Wam was worried about the potential for a second outpost closer, so he could have sniped archers that were being spawned, right? Like that maybe would have been an option for Numudan, but no options anymore. When you see that many torches being pulled out, you know what's about to happen here. Love the reaction as well. Wam's like, tech up's complete, Yam's coming in, I can't risk it, this needs to go.
Yeah, Horseman now diving in. Arrow slits will be close to completion, but a tower is getting burnt down.
Ooh. Meanwhile, Numudan hasn't noticed. He's so distracted by this fight because he has to micro it correctly with the spearman. Looks like he won't notice his gold workers going down. One's going to peel back, but the Yam's so far away. That's 3 villagers sacrificed and little gained.
Great value for that single knight out there for Wam. He just has 1 knight on the playing field, and that is used to perfection here. Also cleans up the tower, gets rid of a horseman, and now he's possessing a 4 eco lead, plus a convincing army as well.
Now, curious to see if Wam goes on the stone for the TC. In fact, it looks like that's exactly what he's going to be doing. Good read in this situation. Numudan is over-leveraged into this dark/Fuel Assault. Means that Wam can go for the double up in terms of TCs.
I wonder if Wam sees the amount of lumberjacks Numudan is operating with, because this is a very clear second TC play here from Numudan, and this is something that should be rather easy for Wam to scout.
It's very dangerous as well, though. Like, you look at the layout of his base, he doesn't have pocket ecos he can access easily, so Numudan doesn't only need the wood to get the TC, he's then also going to need a lot of wood to get pastures.
Wait a second, look at the hunt positions actually. I'm just now noticing for Numudan, very far away, he has placed his starting TC from those, so expansion in that direction is going to be very difficult with that knight roaming the map.
Even if he goes north side, there's only 1 berry patch up there, and it's far out. Like, this is dangerous the way Numudan's having to play this. Because of the stretch in terms of where the food eco is, you have to go really risky up against the French.
Nice micro. Beautiful micro, actually. Picking off some spearmen, doing some chip damage on the horseman, and once again pulling the archers back just in time. Great micro, actually.
Wam's playing him like a fiddle right now. Less units in the field. Spearmen will try to trade out their lives the best they can. Archers are being picked apart, and the village is now going to be targeted down, but enough stone has been gathered by Wam. He'll commit to get what he needs, and they can easily back off the TC. Weirdly, he's actually continuing collection despite the fact he has the required quantity of stone.
Yeah, it's a little surprising indeed. Unless he wants to add 2 extra town centers, but that feels overly greedy. Unless he knows that there's a second TC coming from Numudan. Indeed, second TC already up. It's
Maybe he's a little bit
here.
distracted. Do you think like maybe it's just he's a bit distracted in the micro? Like that, we've seen that happen sometimes.
Yeah, he pulled away the villagers from the stone. He's going to be able to afford 2 arrow slits and placements on future towers, so that's going to help him. Obviously, it would have been better to just pull the villagers from the stone a little sooner, but it's not like it's going to have a massive impact on his second town center timing, so he's going to be fine with that extra stone gathered. He's going to find a good use to it at some point.
And now you see the weakness I was talking about that Numudan has to look forward to. I don't know if you look forward to it in the situation. He's running out of sheep fast. He's already trying to push into the pastures, but yeah, you have to keep in mind the investment here. 900 wood in no TC, and then you need 150 wood per pasture. You've been slowed down, and it makes you query, like, you know, is there any value in, for example, going for the lumberjack upgrades early on? Would that have helped? Maybe not with the first 1,000, but considering he's probably going to need close to 2,000 wood in the next 3 to 4 minutes spent, definitely feels like those eco upgrades may have paid off.
Yeah, that's a good point, indeed. He's going to be consuming a lot of wood here because, as you see, he's struggling with pastures, although he's already up to 4, and both of those, actually all 4 of those are boosted by the Ovus, so he's not going to need as much as in most cases. It's a very nice and compact economy, so he might be able to offset some of that wood need.
Yeah, I need to check the maths on it and like what point it's worth the return on going for that eco to slow down your secondary TC. But he's at this point, what, 1650 wood in with the 5th pasture? So I feel like it must be around that number where it starts to pay for itself. I am actually a big fan of forestry, which I don't see a lot of Mongol players do. In fact, the only one I frequently see do it is actually playing the French in this matchup.
It's surprising you say that because B is also someone that commonly uses the
True.
forestry tech. So yeah, I think there are a couple of people that start to appreciate forestry and sometimes even improved forestry.
Yeah, it's usually about the improved, because like normally forestry, yawn. Improved forestry allows you to cut a tree down in 1 strike. It's really, really good.
Ooh, nice little brace by the spearman out there, but isolated army forces here getting intercepted. Nice little
Yeah,
fight.
this is where it just doesn't feel good to brace. Like, what you have to remember about bracing is for the first second, you and the unit you brace against are both stunned. So when there's more enemies, you're just doing nothing while dying.
Doing nothing while dying. KP 2022.
I mean, I guess it's a little bit hard to do much while dying. I guess you could flail, scream for help. Need a lot of help, though. And we're seeing Numudan, he's actually going for more horsemen. Has actually gone for the gathering rate increase on food. Wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong side. That's for Wam. So my kind of thought process is like, what is Numudan's goal here? Is this now going to be a castle up while hunkering down? Because he's got a very condensed base. It feels like he is just trying to tow.
Yeah, you get the feel that he's just trying to just squeeze out a strong economy off the back of the 2 town centers and then try to get to castle. But he's gonna get beaten to castle while also having quite a lot of his eco idled here.
Whoopsie. It's almost like you're gathering with half of your villagers on 1 spot. That's the dream for a French player. Just idle half the economy.
Yeah, big investments into defense, but this is slowing down the castle age progress of Numudan so much. And look at the other side. Wam wants to go to castle, and he's gonna be able to potentially pick up 4, maybe even 5 relics if he's able to maintain the map control with those knights. So you get the feel that Numudan needs to start breaking out of his base very soon because he's down 6 eco, doesn't have map control, and he's about to forfeit all the relics.
I think the tough part for Numudan is the toxic layout of his starting generation meant that he needed to play pocket ecos, but it's very difficult to do that against the French. Like, you're just seeing how effective Wam is with minimum knights. If you think about the way this game opened up, the Mongols were aggressive, Wam's on the defensive, yet just having 2 or 3 knights forces the Mongols to turtle up like this. It's very uncomfortable to play the game this way.
It's difficult, right? Because what can you do against them? You can match them with horsemen, you can match them with spearmen, but you just need so much of an investment to slow down 1 or 2 knights, and the damage they can do is massive. Ooh!
The timing on this, he's going to discover the Royal Institute being built up. He's going to take the fight because he realized that Wam cannot. Not willing to commit onto the villagers here. A little bit hesitant. Surprising out of Numudan. If he struck there, he could have delayed Wam's tech up and probably killed off several villagers in the process.
He doesn't want to overcommit though, because he was also thinking about going into castle age. He just wants to slow his opponent down here because if he realizes he's got the momentum and he could easily catch up in the castle age timing.
Do you feel like he slowed him down though? I feel like he maybe prevented Wam for 5 seconds maximum. Maybe.
He also delayed the ranges, right?
Yeah, but they weren't that far complete. Like, it feels like that's a throwaway army anyway. Do you really want to have horsemen and spears moving forward in the game? Like, usually you want lancers and crossbows, right? So it feels like this army was going to be wasted one way or the other.
I think he didn't just want to forfeit all the map control. Right now,
Yeah.
Wam can't move out, and he's going to delay him when it comes to picking up the relics. That's where the value is for this army.
I mean, I think the problem for him is, like, you say he's going to delay Wam moving out, but Wam already got that deer patch, right? He got both of them, which I think is all that the French need to get to this stage. It's really hard for you to make in that moment. Like, you know, Numudan, he doesn't know the layout of the map and where Wam is everywhere right now. But it's one of those situations where sometimes throwing away the army to delay your opponent 2 minutes is really big, especially when it's a Royal Institute build from the French. So, tech up complete. And now we're going to see if it is going to be a hard push into Lancers. It seems like one of the most obvious choices, but Numudan, interestingly enough, has queued a few more Horsemen, which actually should work out well considering Wam's going for Arbaletier.
Yeah, that's going to work well indeed. Obviously, Arbaletier with the Gambeson's upgrade, it's a little bit tougher to crack than ordinary crossbowmen, but on paper, the unit composition should be favoring Numudan if Wam chooses to go with a heavy focus on Arbaletier.
Especially when you consider that most French players don't rush the Gambesons, right? It's always about stirrups and everything else. So
Yep.
he actually might get a lot of value out of the first 2 fights in this Castle Age.
Only 8 horsemen though for him, 6 arbaletier on the other side already, and the more pressing detail is the knight numbers. Wam is gonna have 6 veteran knights now, ready to dive in, and he knows exactly where to hit. Those lumberjacks are more than exposed.
Hello. Going around now. Spearmen are not in position. Nice reactions. Quick out of Numudan. We'll look to garrison as many as possible. He needs to get his army in position. However, they seem to be away from home right now. And one cool thing that Numudan's... I say cool, it's kind of weird because you're fighting against the natural flow of the Mongols. He's trying to build an army that doesn't use gold. So he's not really getting any value out of that step redoubt that he built.
Yeah, that's an interesting point indeed. He's going for a very much gold lacking unit composition, so to say. Spearman, horseman only. He's getting the value because he's still mining a lot of gold. The bigger problem is that he's just floating all that gold. He's not turning into any army.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. It's going to be siege engineering. It makes sense. It's actually a pretty cool idea. Like, you just need siege. If there's something that the French can't beat you in, it's that siege escalation, right? Because what are your other choices? You could build crossbows. You can see he's building one. But if you mass them, you're up against arbaletier. Doesn't work. If you go for men-at-arms, French knights and arbaletier, once again, doesn't work. Like, probably the only good option for the Mongols is to go for siege here.
And he already has quite a lot of spearmen to defend those with, right? So it's not like he's starting from scratch. The existing army he has is something that's going to be supplemented a lot better by mangonels than just making complete tech switch into his own horsemen, like going 30, 40 horsemen, because that's what he would need to deal with that many arbaletier and knights.
What an interesting keep coming out from Wam. This is actually the equivalent of sticking a twig on a tank and saying it's hidden in the tree line. Just, look at it. Yes, he'll never see me.
It's going up. It's going to secure the berries as well. On the other side, it looks like one shaman gets intercepted by the knight here as both players are working their way towards the relics.
And it is a relic race. We saw Wam trying to convert, going for himself, so 1-1 apiece right now. Usually the Mongols can have an advantage, but you have to be UV double producing, and it looks like Numudan isn't doing that.
No, not at all. He's got quite a lot of stone in the bank. Makes me wonder if he wants to turn those into spring gold emplacements, because he needs to use that stone to something. He kind of needs to use the gold to something as well, floating now 1,300.
Maybe he's hoping that this is like the campaign, and if he bribes Wam, he goes away.
I don't think that's gonna work.
It doesn't feel right. You're not role-playing the right civ, because in that situation, the Rus pay the Mongols, and you are the Mongols. It'd be pretty embarrassing right now. And oh, right in. Spearman are looking to react, about to get the yam, so Wam needs to disengage. Uh-oh. Well, that doesn't feel like a good trade.
Yeah, loses 2 knights in the process. Lack of vision is haunting Numudan over here. He's struggling to spot those knight raids coming in, and he's losing 1 or 2 villagers in every one of those raids. But it looks like we might have a decisive fight here coming up soon, because arbaletier are moving up, and not a single siege weapon for Numudan yet.
Not just that, it's the Raw Bloodlines being prepped by Wam. Feels maybe a little bit premature, only up at 5 knights. Something ambitious that he's doing, but considering he went for that aggressive keep, I think that's why he's researching Raw Bloodlines earlier than most people would. It takes a minute and a half to get, but because you have this keep with a discount on those stables, you're actually going to be able to amass a decent amount of knights by the time Bloodlines does tick in.
Exactly, it's the discount we're talking about. He only has a handful of knights right now, but he can increase that number quite dramatically using the discount that he's getting from the keep, especially if he has already gotten enlistment incentives.
And Numudan has chosen to enlist a Mangonel. Really want a second here, but I think it's a bit risky with the amount of knights he doesn't know about yet, that he's worried about. Looks like he's going to be pushed back for the time being, and this is problematic because right now, Wam can force a fight around this keep. However, the start of this fight is looking detrimental to Wam's health. Staggered formation dodges a lot of the damage. Good maneuver there, and now the horsemen being thrown away. Spearmen have to engage. Mangonel still not threatening because Wam is quick to step back, and that arbaletier mass is getting scary.
Yeah, the arbaletier mass getting scary as well, and Wam now spotted the Mangonel. He knows fully well that he needs to start adding springolds over here. This will force Numudan to also start adding his own springolds, but that's gonna mean that he has less resources to spend on mangonels.
And the kind of interesting part is that Wam is going into springolds. We don't see that frequently out of the French. Usually the solution is just get more cavalry, idiot, stab him, right? But there's a reason why he needs springolds. It's the arbaletier. Like, if he goes mass cavalry, he's gonna expose himself still. It's actually a pretty cool pivot, one we don't see frequently out of the French.
Ooh, nice raid coming in here, idling a lot of the food eco here. Look at how stacked this food eco is, like 50 villagers concentrated on the sheep over there. So much idle time just by diving in with those knights a little into the base of Numudan.
This is a dangerous game Numudan's playing.
Yep.
He's got a very split eco now, playing to the south side with the gold. He doesn't have the mobility to react to this. So if Wam identifies this, if he scouts it out, which he has, and dives in there, even with the outpost, you're going to start hemorrhaging eco. South side, on the step readout, raid coming in.
Oh, the Mangonels! They're off guard. Look at this!
Oh, where's the space? Where's the space? Oh, no! Both go down. And now you can't fight the Arbitrie. Wam's just going to snowball into the base. He's going to shut down the wood gathering here. Numudan, about to stagnate in his gatherings, might struggle to replace the Mangonels.
Oh man, it hurts so much. This is the window that Wam has been waiting for. Snipe the Mangonels that he knows that this is go time right now for him. He can dive very deep into the base of Numudan here.
Not just that. It's south side as well. That raid was shutting down his gold gathering. Look at Numudan's gold right now. He just replaced the Mangonel, but that's it. He's barely getting any as it stands.
And look at the Lumberjacks now. Wide open for the raiding. Could be a slaughter here, KP.
Oh, lordy. Oh, lordy, run. Take your little Yam legs and go. Wheelbarrow plus Yam will get most of them out, but still several going down. Reaction now coming out as Numudan goes in for the backstab. Spearman overwhelmed. Arbitrie may be somewhat overextended. The crossbow count does look decent for Numudan, but Wam, this is only his first wave. In total, he has 35 Arbitrie at his disposal, and the Knights feel uncontested as they dive in onto the crossbows.
New Mangonel appearing though.
One shot, needs two more. Staggered formation. Wam on point with his reaction. He doesn't just rush away. He stands around, he peppers down a bunch of the threats, and then retreats in an orderly fashion.
Massive casualties on both sides over here, but Wam can afford to take those much easier than his opponent can. So much idle time for Numudan's eco, and his ability to replenish the army is just much smaller than what Wam has.
He's looking small right now. It happened again. It's the southern side. Every time. It's where the step readout's located. We highlight this as a risk, and Wam keeps identifying it. He sent in some more knights. He idled eco. He sniped villages out. It keeps happening, and this is one of the weaknesses of the Mongols. When you're not the aggressor, when you're split on your eco like this, you have no easy way to defend.
Exactly. And you just look away for a second, you lose your Mangonels. Replacing them is going to be a nightmare. Slow expansion from Numudan to the left side, but once again, it is Wam pushing in here. 56 army against 34 only on the other side.
One, two knights, the idle time, the fact they can snipe out villages, still no textiles for Numudan, despite the fact he's up against the French and has clearly been hemorrhaging eco. Feels like maybe a misstep there, someone that could easily have been grabbed at some point earlier on.
Arbitrie flirting with the idea of pushing deeper. Wam has to be careful here because Numudan could easily surprise him with quite a lot of siege. Little does Wam know that Numudan doesn't have much on the field, except for a few springolds.
What buddy? Where is that Mangonel going? Back to the recycling pit, I guess. Sprion's trading out now. Horseman able to push back against this. Arbitrie still looking healthy on the count. And remember that this is not Wam's full army. The second wave of knights has finally arrived. He's got 13 in total. And if you look at the crossbow count, it doesn't actually look that healthy for Numudan.
No, not at all. It's 26, and he's up against 34 Arbitrie, now with crossbow syrups, now with gambesons, and the ability to drop the Pavise as well. Mangonels are there for sure, but Wam is adding his own springolds, and Wam once again will be looking for an opportunity to take down the Mangonels first and then take the engagement.
Wam with the ranged rams now going into trebuchets. Trebuchets that will make quick work of this forward infrastructure Numudan has. Remember, the battleground is in his base, so it's premium easy targets. Shuts down his ability to scale into these horsemen that he needs to counter out what Wam is pushing.
Oh, beautiful raids on the north and the south as well. This is a distraction for Wam. He probably wants a keep drop in the middle at the same time.
Stabilizing for it, double outpost, forces the fight. Horsemen dive in, but they look irrelevant. Barely any damage done. The Arbitrie count always increasing every time you look at it, and he just can't dive in. Double outpost is too threatening. The Mangonels can't siege quick enough, and now with the step readout being shut down, Numudan's about to run out of gold.
Oh, it's getting worse and worse. His next gold mine is exposed as well to a potential keep drop. He's distracted by the knights on the south, but this just opens up the possibility for Wam to push in the middle.
Goes in. It's an overwhelm. I mean, that Mangonel, he can't back off from it. The moment he does, it's just gone, and the Arbitrie can clean house once again. Ay, Numudan, now on the ropes, needs a haymaker to recover.
He's down to 27 army here, and ability to replenish is just non-existent now with the gold mine being denied, his eco being raided. And now siege weapons also taking down his production buildings. He's getting pushed too deep back into his base, and that is a keep drop by Wam to finish the game, possibly.
And you want to know the strength of the French, just look at the villager count. Over time, how this has escalated. Keep in mind, they both went 2 TCs around the same time. Yet look at the difference now. Chipped away time and time again. 2, 3, 4 villagers here and there. That is the power of the French when you peel off these knights. That is the power of Wam when you give him the opportunity to pressure. And it feels like Numudan is coming to an end. I wouldn't be surprised if he just waves the white flag as soon as this keep starts being built.
Yeah, he's gonna have to stand and fight here. He can't afford to let this keep go up, but it's not like he's left with a choice. He simply can't push that keep. He's getting pushed back.
Oh, that's grim. I mean, that's just a parking point. The upside of playing the Mongols, Ligacore, is when you see someone keep drop you, you can just pack up your buildings and leave. But in that case, they'll be leaving to map number 2, as Wam will open this series with a win. Numudan, interesting experimentation in the early game, but Wam all too aware and ready to counter.
Of this weekly event.
Whew. You know, those energy drinks and Doritos don't pay for themselves. And if you want to be a gamer throughout the whole night, get your grind on and prep for Heidelberg, you need those resources. Who needs healthy meals, you know? Get healthy meals when you retire.
What's up with the players picking colors today? Look at the colors once again. Numudan goes for teal against blue.
He's like, maybe Wam has like some sort of slight color blindness and he'll get confused. It's out of the box thinking. I've got to give it to him, Ligacore, but I don't think many players have considered that.
Well, one thing is sure, the viewers will consider that. It's going to be a little difficult to distinguish units, although there are some clues. For example, if you see a knight in Feudal Age, you can be for sure that it is a Rus knight and not a Delhi knight.
That's why you don't build knights. You don't give it away. It's very crafty. I mean, is that just going to, like, if Wam gets through and then wins tomorrow, is that going to be your first question? Are you colorblind? Did Numudan know?
Mosque already up here for our Delhi players. He's opting for the early Mosque build here. Should be allowing him to squeeze in Piety before reaching Feudal Age. We'll have a nice extra HP on those scholars as he moves out for the sacred sites.
Curious to see if Numudan's going to try for any sort of ball play. Looking at the location of them, like, they're well hidden. They're about to the side, but they're harder to identify. Even the northern ball, if you pull it into the stealth forest, it might be difficult for Wam to get eyes on that early. But probably if he does make a play, it'll be to this southern ball, just because it's well hidden.
Yeah, this is one of those maps where you can really contemplate going for that hidden extra boar, because it's much easier to hide a potential second town center expansion for that boar than it is on, let's say, Dry Arabia or, let's say, Lipany. So many players actually started thinking about the possibility of just hiding the second TC for some time from the opponent on that boar. Eventually it's gonna get scouted, but it's the amount of time it takes for your opponent to scout it, especially if your opponent is only playing with one scout. This time around, Wam is playing with 2, so it's gonna be a little easier for him to figure that out. But still, we are seeing an increase of players moving towards the boards with the second TC, especially on a map like Highview.
It's very difficult to do for free these days, though, with that 2 scout build, just because the extra vision they have compared to what they used to. So even on a map like Highview, you can be revealed quite early. We'll have to see if he goes for that. I think something interesting to think about here is Wam and Poppypool, they frequently do these kind of 2 TC builds on maps like Highview. It depends on how defensive their starting location is, though. Wam's is somewhat exposed. It's a little bit open, so I wouldn't be surprised if he opts for a more aggressive build to try and prevent the Rus from expanding.
Yeah, that could be a possibility, especially because, as you said, the expansion in a way is somewhat predictable. Ideally, we're seeing more Rus players move towards the board more and more, but if they don't move towards the board, it's going to be towards one of the hunts. So it's a relatively predictable direction when it comes to expansion, and if you're playing very aggressive, you might be able to delay or potentially even deny that second town center, especially if that second TC comes in delayed for the Rus.
I'd be curious to know if Wam and Poppypool like Delhi on Highview because of the variability on boar spawns. Like, if you think of other maps, things like Lipany, Dry Arabia, a lot of these spawns put the boar and the sacred sites together, but Highview frequently doesn't. There are some spawns that do it, but a lot of the time you get what we've got here, which means that your opponent doesn't get that double whammy of not only collecting from the board, but also blocking you out from the sacred site.
I think the Delhi pick here, at least this is my perception on the situation, I think the Delhi pick is more about the predictability of the sacred sites. 2 of those always spawning in corners, so you can be sure that you can secure one corner for yourself, possibly even vault in, and then focus all your attempts in the middle. I think that has a larger impact than the boar spawn does on the deli pick. But indeed, it would be interesting to hear the opinions of the likes of Wam or Puppy Paw on this matter.
Yeah, because every once in a while, I think like maybe 25% of the time, I've seen the boar spawn near the central sacred site, and it's really frustrating. Like, I've seen plenty of Delhi players struggle to get what they need, and I've seen, especially like Chinese picks, just overwhelm them because of that, because they'll block out all sacred sites and gather the boar. But in this type of generation, like, this is an opportunity for Wam to easily get 2 sacred sites. Just curious to see what he'll do with it, because if he does get that control, there's a lot of temptation to rush castle. But I've noticed a lot of players getting success from just trading that excess gold into a prolonged feudal for trying to close the game out earlier.
Looks like Numudan is working heavily on the lumberjacking department. He already has a wooden fortress out there, so in all certainty, we are going to see a second town center here. The question is where exactly he's thinking about placing it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the spawns. The most obvious one would be north side near the deer and the tree line, right? Like that's pretty high value, and it allows you to kind of connect your base in the coming minutes. You could go for a more ambitious TC. We've seen a lot of players on a slightly triggered delay go to the boar and drop a TC there. That could be an option, but I find it's like limited value if there's not a tree line on high view, simply because TCs don't give vision, so you have to drop a wooden fortress still to even see anything coming.
Yeah, I would probably prefer the one position to the north of his starting base. That is going to not only secure him the hunt and potentially the back of his own wood line, but if you take a look at the gold spots, it's also going to make this base very tight and well defendable, with a lot of resources that are safe at the back, and that's also something that can help him push this game to a little later stage and just have a lot of safe resources at the back that he can leverage in a defensive game.
Good scout from Numudan. He gets eyeballs on the spearman coming out, so he's already prepping the archery range. This is kind of predictable. Like, this is something that, you know, a lot of Roost players feel they have an edge over Delhi players at the moment because of this. Is if you think about Delhi builds, a lot of them now feature spears, and it's usually the first thing you build. And if you think about Roost, the first thing they typically build is archers. And there we go. So it's going to be second TC on the north side.
It's a very compact position as well. He didn't even expand towards the forest on the north. It's going to be a nice and compact base, but as you said, one of the problems he's going to have is that the town center doesn't have vision into the stealth forest. So at any given moment in the future, if he doesn't have vision on the forces of his opponent crossing the stealth forest, he could be surprised with that TC.
Yeah,
there
it does feel like if that happens, it's going to be him maybe just not playing Roost optimally, though, right? I think the reason why people pick Roost a lot here is because you spam scouts early on, and you have a way of getting more for free without stables, which is a really big deal on high view.
Indeed, that's the big thing. He was able to keep all 3 of his scouts alive here, even dancing around a couple of the spearmen, blocking some walls. First archer making its appearance, and look at that. He's denying the sacred site for the time being, buying precious time for himself.
He has to continue scaling, though, because, you know, Wam, let's say a spearman versus archer occurs, like a scholar can shuffle out and easily heal you up with 130 health. He's not dying quickly. So it's kind of important that Numudan gets something stronger to hold here, and I love this out of Wam. I see Puppy Paw do this a lot as well. I actually think this is kind of the future for the Delhi, is the 2 TC build.
And that kind of gives you the answer on why he was thinking about the Delhi for this map, because not only is he dropping that second TC on the berries, he's also dropping it on the sacred site. That is going to be one guaranteed sacred site for him in the future. The good news for Numudan is that he's going to spot this second TC immediately, so he knows exactly what's up with his opponent's build.
The bad news, though, is what do you do with this info as a Roost player at this stage? Like, it's a retracted TC, so you can't go after it with archers. Because if you chase with archers, like, you can already see what Wam's prepping. From his main base, he can push horsemen and intercept you. It's really frustrating when you see someone do a back TC like this.
Yeah, it's not like he can do much to stop this with. In fact, he only has 4 archers on the battlefield, so he had no chance to stop that. He has no chance to push it right now. He kind of just has to acknowledge the fact that his opponent is gonna be on 2 TCs. And a scary thing for him, I think, is that he's only up by 4 villagers. If this second TC was a little delayed, then he would have a much bigger eco advantage compared to Wam. Now it's only gonna be a 4 villagers discrepancy between the two. It's minimal. In fact, it's nothing if you consider the fact that he's also gonna control the sacred sites.
Yeah, it's also scary when you think about like the food income of these 2 civs at this point in the game and the layout of the resources that can get you good returns. Like, unless Numudan plays onto boar and the risky deer, in the next 3 or 4 minutes, Wam is going to have excessive food gathering rates in comparison, just because of the buff you get as Delhi and Abasa specifically when gathering on these berries.
And also, we are just now hitting the moment where the Delhi free eco upgrades will start kicking in. So not only is the berry bonus we're talking about, we're also talking about all those free eco upgrades that they're just now getting. the efficient production to mass-produce army, the free blacksmith upgrades, the gold coming in from the sacred side. This is the escalation time of the Delhi. This 9 to 12 minute mark is where they really start kicking in. And you really feel that there is a vulnerability here for the Numudan's Rus.
Yeah, with the Canadian bros, I'm always reminded of that time Puppy Paw forgot all of his techs for the first 10 minutes of Delhi. Just feels like Wam probably gave him a hard time about that and then remembers to never make that mistake himself, right? It's like, if you tease someone about something, you can't then go and do it yourself, you know?
That is for sure. I mean, I think anyone that has seen that series will never again forget his upgrades with the Delhi.
I don't think Puppy
as you were saying that, wait a second. Go back for a second, Vodka.
Hold up. Wait, has one of the Canadians been drinking vodka? Oh, no.
No.
It begins. There you go, Puppy Paw. Give him hell.
Mistakes were made.
He at least remembered some of the techs, you know, like I've seen more awkward Delhi openings, you know, like not researching a single thing in your mosque or any of the other free gathering buildings techs. This rates it like a 6 out of 10 catastrophe, you know?
I mean, it could be worse, right?
Yeah.
Not great, not terrible.
Could be worse, you know. You like your delete key could get like jammed when you select your army, and I mean, I'll teach you to buy cheap keyboards. You never know. I'm waiting for that to happen in a high stakes game. Like it's gonna happen one day, and someone's gonna like be like, "Can we restart?" There was a technical issue. My keyboard sucks.
At least his army numbers are not bad, so even though he is going to lack the blacksmith upgrades, he still has the numbers advantage, and the unit compo also looks much healthier. Horsemen and spearmen only against knights and archers. The big book of unit composition says big no for Numudan for that.
Yeah, and the only thing stopping Wam from hitting the delete key on Numudan's army is that wooden fortress. It is very scary at this stage when you have lightly armored units. Could be even more so if Numudan decides to upgrade it a little bit, and it looks like he has at least got the arrow slits. Archers start stepping back. Scout is going to be sniped out first. Knights not willing to engage. And Archers, most of them could just garrison inside while the Knights run away. Instead, he keeps stepping back, and it means he is actually taking pretty suboptimal trades here, as the Horsemen have gap closed.
I mean, suboptimal is an understatement over here. This is a complete disaster for him, having his entire army cleaned up.
And that's going to push all the way back to his base. There's a problem with the wooden fortress. Like, okay, that wooden fortress was threatening on the sacred site. Now what? It does nothing, and you can see he's just going to turn around. The Horseman's going to push him back, and because of the Skull's healing, he doesn't care about arrow slits. He'll just burn this down.
Exactly. And the thing is that right now, Numudan's lacking numbers big time. He's down to 10 army as opposed to 28, and the escalation potential is there for Wam. He could just keep on making army, and that's why Numudan was lacking numbers.
Yeah.
He was rushing castle.
Now, the question mark is, what was he rushing castle for? What did he want to get into? Because if he says to me, more knights, I'm just going to facepalm my keyboard and probably hit the delete key.
Archers are being queued up, but you get the feel that that's not going to lead anywhere because his opponent...
Oh, lordy.
It's the House of Learning. He's going to face man-at-arms, he's going to face lancers, and right now Numudan has nothing to stop those with.
That's the frustration that backspawn TC. Like, it's something that I see Puppy Paw and Wam both frequently do. Sometimes their TC will be a bit more condensed if they have a wood line which just protects the sacred site, but either way, they'll always play into that area. I think it's something that people should be taking note of when they go up against these two. It's actually really infuriating to deal with. The more you think about it, the more you think about the civs that people pick as well, right? We've seen a few people trying to pocket English here recently. We see the Rus a lot. We see some people going, even for the French, like it feels weird to try and reach that far around against a civ that builds spears and horsemen.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Wam also hitting Castle Age now himself. He's going to have the opportunity to start picking up relics. So does Numudan with those warrior monks. He's going to yoink the first one just in front of that scholar.
Just in time as well. That's going to force an engagement. Horseman will be able to overwhelm. I don't think he's going to be able to snipe the warrior monk in time though. Looks like it's going to be a free return, at least on that. I say free, he has to sacrifice the army, but has to be happy considering this is a relic race.
Yeah, it is a relic race indeed. Looks like a conversion attempt down there. Once again, relic being denied from Wam, but Numudan is still lacking the army to stop this with. That's the alarming thing for him.
Yeah, it's also a case of, okay, so how do you get relics quicker, right? Like, oh, damn, I stopped him, but like my warrior monk gets sniped. Yeah, you're pushing a warrior monk every 45 seconds. Meanwhile, Wam has been pushing scholars since like minute 3. So he already has a dispensable amount of religious folks to send around the map.
And he's going to do just that, picking up the relics. Right now, he's bringing back 2. Numudan already has 1 garrisoned out there, and he also possesses 7 eco lead. You get the feel that at least Numudan is stabilizing here, but once again, you gotta ask the question, what's next for the Theoros player?
Well, as he's prepping more ranged, a few crossbow, men-at-arms coming in as well is a pretty cool idea. However, you're doing this against the Delhi, and the Delhi, unless they want to lose the game or trying to win the game in 5 minutes, always go House of Learning right now. So, guess what's about to happen in the next fight, Lidico?
Own Blades, given the fact that Wam already started researching it, because he once again was lacking those research upgrades starting when he reached Castle Age. So, you get the feel that indeed he's a little slow when it comes to adding those upgrades. What thing he's not slow with, though, is pushing deep into the enemy base here. Actually doing quite a lot of eco damage here with the idle time.
Yeah, idle time is a little bit frustrating, but he needs to do more because he's fighting into a choke point versus a range comp. So Numudan gets a chance to stabilize. However, Numudan is going to have to be very quick at not just stabilizing, but recovering. Because while this dive has thrown away the horsemen and the spears, look at the Lancer numbers.
That's the big thing, right? Wam has been essentially concealing this Lancer transition for quite a while. He hasn't shown a single one of those up until now, and he's up to 14, and look at the escalation. He's got 2 sacred sites, 2 relics, and 65 villagers with the Delhi, just non-stop pumping out Lancers. The escalation is brutal, up to 13 Lancers already.
And think about what's down the line as well. The Scholar count is escalating again. The herbal medicine's coming out, like the swiftness as well. This is going to be very difficult because right now you're struggling to deal with the Lancers. Down the line, you have to deal with them being healed while they dive as well. And in the middle of this, Numudan is forced to make a farm transition, but it is too little too late. He realizes he cannot get away with it. Numudan will not be our deep running dark horse here. He takes out 2 favorable players, but will be stopped at the 3rd as Wam takes the series with a clean 2-0.
Convincing game here for Wam, but obviously he's playing in a different league, right? He's already a qualified player versus for Numudan. He just came out of nowhere. We don't know how much prep he has had before these weeklies. It's very possible that he has done this off the back of a week-long prep or something. So, in a way, I can say the same thing for him as I could say for the likes of Dado or Dowd or Winchester. For him, the big opportunity could be the last chance qualifier. The place where these elite players who already qualified won't be there, and if he has the ability to take down the likes of Kyle, the likes of Don Artie, players who are contenders for those spots in the main event, then he's gonna have a chance to sneak his way into the main event. It's gonna be interesting to take a look at that.
And Wam, he says it best.